This is my low cost, easy to build, comfy as hell, big pimpin', back of the truck bed setup. What's up my preppers, my campers, my hashtag truck life friends. If you have a pickup truck that you use as your bug out vehicle or for camping, or you have the need for ultra low cost accommodations on road trips, this is the video for you. I'm going to explain why I chose this setup over a back of the bed camper or a tent or a tow behind camper or even a van. I will explain how I made this setup for very little money. I'll describe how it's actually a modular design. You can change it around to fit your needs. And I'll also go through all of the various different types of gear that I use in here while I'm camping or sleeping in the back, and even gear that I can use in a winter camp or bug out situation. Links to all of the gear in the description. Of course, I do earn an affiliate commission if you follow any of those links, so that helps support the channel. These videos take a fair amount of time to make. And of course, you can always support me by blowing up the like button. So why this setup versus something else? Primarily because it's so easy to make, it's fast, it's modular, and it's cheap. But specifically, this setup versus a tent. I find tents to be relatively uncomfortable. They're fine when you're young and a teenager and you don't know any different, but over time I like a nice night's sleep. I feel better the next day, I'm more productive, I have more energy, my head is clearer, and I sleep much better in this on a comfy bed. Of course, I could set these types of mattresses inside a tent, but I'm sleeping lower to the ground, and if it's raining or inclement weather, I gotta set it up in the rain, I gotta take it down, and then it's all wet, and I gotta dry it out somehow. I don't have to do any of that in here. Everything is already ready to go. Now this versus a slide in the back truck camper, I'm not gonna get one of those. They cost a fair amount of money. I don't go camping in my truck that frequently. If I was doing a cross-country road trip, then yeah, it would make more sense to put a full camper in here, stay in the campgrounds, that sort of thing. Now this versus a camper van. Camper vans, they're pretty expensive for a nice one. We're talking like $90,000 for a used one. I'm not going to spend that. Again, if I was going cross-country, living in a van for a couple of years, then that would make sense. I'd probably do that before I would slide a camper in the back of this, but that's not my situation. This setup, the lumber here, I mean, this is probably 200 bucks for the lumber, and I'll show you all of that. This mattress here costs more than the lumber, but you don't have to have a mattress like that. We'll go through all of that. So why this versus a tow behind camper? I've had a pop-up camper and I've had a hard-sided camper. You got to register those. They can be pricey for a decent one, and you got to tow them behind you. You got to maintain them. Even moderately decent campers I find are kind of made on the chintzy side. I don't really care for them. They're nice because you got your kitchen and your shower and that sort of thing, but if we're going to a campground, we use the campground shower anyway. We cook outside. Very few people, I think, cook inside their campers. This is just easy. I can put all the gear underneath here, stoves, etc. I can put an easy up over this truck cap here and extend that out for workspace in a rain. So despite this being lean and mean, this is actually surprisingly comfy and fun. So let's back up, let's get all of this stuff out of here, start with just the shell, and you can see how I constructed this. This is a Lear fiberglass cap sitting on a 2023 Toyota Tundra. About almost a 6.5 foot bed, which means I can sleep in it comfortably, fully straight. And it's about 40 inches from the bed to the roof of the cap. You may notice here that I've got a rubber mat on the bottom. This makes it a little bit more comfortable. It makes it a little bit more quiet. These new Tundras come with a plastic liner on the bed, which I don't particularly care for. Shit just flies all over the place when you're driving around if you get stuff in here, and they're terrible on your knees, but some people like them. So I made some optional upgrades to the cap from the outset. The most important one, I think, is sliding windows. Get fresh breeze in here. That makes a massive difference. And screens, of course, to keep mosquitoes out. I've got this light by the tailgate up high. Carpeting on the roof and sides because, again, this is a fiberglass cap, and if you've never had fiberglass stuck in your hands, it's pretty nasty. So this is a nice feature to have, and I guess if you're going to do a lot of cold weather camping in the back of your truck, that maybe adds a little bit of R value. I don't know. Another upgrade I had was this sliding window on the back. It lets you reach into the cab if you needed to get some gear in the back seat. I could have this headrest removed to allow even more space in there, and that's nice too if you've got people that are in the back seat while you're driving and you want gear right here, and they can reach in and grab something out of a cooler or whatever, and it also creates better airflow between all the windows while you're sleeping. Not necessarily related to sleeping in the back of the truck, I also had racks put on top to store kayaks, ladders, etc. Of course, you don't have to build a bed frame to sleep in the back. You can just get a decent sleeping pad, a sleeping bag, and crash right in here. I did that for years with my first truck, an old Chevy 2500 that had an 8-foot bed, and that worked very well. The downside to that, however, is that you sacrifice storage space when you do that. A bed frame allows you more storage space, and a bed frame lets you get up off the floor and closer to these windows, which gives you a nice cross breeze. Another option here is to use a couple equal-sized, strong storage totes such as these. You can use these to set a bed on and then of course store gear in them as well. Let me show you what I mean. It's comfortable, and as long as you don't weigh 600 pounds, it's going to hold you with no problem, and you get up where the cross breeze is happening. But before I show you how I made the bed frame and put everything in here, let me show you an option for blacking out windows and retaining heat in cold weather use. So this here is just basic foil type insulation that you can buy at Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. You can buy it right online. I'll put a link in the description. This has an R value, and it also blocks out any light. It's easy to put these in. I cut them roughly to size, and then a lot of it is just friction fit. You can see I tape a few spots with painter's tape just to hold it in its place, and in one case I use a clip, but again, most of it's friction fit. If you want a more sort of permanent solution, put in some Velcro on one side and on the other, and then you can sort of cinch it into place. This works fine for me because it's easy to put in and easy to take out. And here's how it looks from outside the truck. And this is how it looks with the cap window down. I don't typically use these often. The primary reason is the places that I usually spend the night in the back of the truck. No one is around anyway, so I don't really need any sort of privacy. And when it comes to winter, I have a lot of winter gear, and the heater that I'll show you is plenty to heat this space, but they're nice to have. Now let's look at the different pieces that I constructed in order to make this bed frame truck bed setup. The first being the rail, if you will, of the bed frame. This is it. I used a lot of scrap lumber that I had. It's probably 75% scrap lumber, maybe 50%. I think I'd actually buy a sheet of plywood. If you're buying all new materials, I would guess you'd probably need, I used 2x6s. Actually, what I ended up using for some of these was ripped old 2x12s, so they're not really 2x6s. But I'd go overkill on a lot of things. You could probably use 2x4s. I'd estimate probably 4 10-foot 2x4s, and you could probably be up and running, maybe five probably. But I had scrap 4x4s that I used for the legs here. You can see it's got a slight little, not a perfect cut here. That's actually a little notch that I attempted to do to fit within the grooves of the truck bed. Scrap strapping, 1x3 strapping that I had here, and I set these in appropriate spacing so that I can slide the slats across for the bed frame. Note that I've got these sitting right up flush to almost to the tailgate. The tailgate can close, and that's pretty much closes the space. If you are shorter than I am, then you could cut this off a little bit and allow yourself some space here to help getting in and out of it if that's something you want to do. Now you need 4 of these bed frame slats. The reason I made those spaces between the strapping and the 1x3s is so that these fit inside between them and they won't move. So there's no chance of the bed frame sort of collapsing on you. And that's the frame. And then what I needed was plywood to go across the top. I had to buy a sheet to match the other piece that I had. I used I think I bought 3/4 inch. You can probably get away with 1/2 inch just fine. Note the little notch that I made here. That's to fit around these pieces on the end to tighten everything up as best as I can. These come in, same size on both, split the difference down the middle. A little bit tricky to get it up on that top one. You gotta go like that. And there's that. And as you can probably figure out, I didn't follow any specific plans. There's a double bed frame, and that's it. I was just looking at the video that I'm taking here, and it looks like the bed is sloping a little bit this way. That's not the case. The truck is just not exactly on a level driveway. But another key piece of equipment that is really cool for this are sleds. These are just rugged plastic sleds, great for carrying gear, attaching to snowmobiles, ice fishing, that sort of thing. They are also great for putting in gear, food, whatever it is you need, bug out supplies, and they slide right under here. They'll go all the way in the back, and you still got plenty of space here. And while you're driving, if you need to carry additional gear, all that can go into here, and then you can, of course, stack additional gear up here. If you don't want to break it all down, you just want it like this. Now, here's another key piece of equipment that is cheap and easy to make: a hook. This is a broken broom handle hook that I had in a toolbox, wrapped it in all-purpose duct tape, and I leave this right in the bed of the truck always because it's easy to hook onto anything, and then I don't have to climb into the bed every single time, and it's also great for hooking onto these sleds. There is one thing about this setup that some people don't like. It's the limited space that you have from here. You can't actually sit up with this arrangement. You kind of have to shimmy your body. After sleeping in this a few times like this, it didn't bother me at all. I actually slept quite well. See what I got for space. I got about 28.5 inches. And I set the height of the bed frame so it hit just above the wheel wells, but also allowed enough space for those sleds to slide in and out. And this is the setup that naturally my wife and I use when it's the two of us. If it's just me, I might use this, or I might use a single setup. I usually use a single setup. Let me show you that now. Same bed rails here. I don't have to construct any new ones. When you have the double bed set up between the plywood and these rails sitting against the sides of the truck, the bed has no chance of collapsing on you. However, if you were to just lay the frame slats across here, this will spin off. This end will tip over, potentially collapsing your bed. Probably not, but if you move around a lot or you're setting this up and driving, chances are it will. This contraption that I made locks the posts here in place. So you can see I cut these just so they fit flush around here. This 2x6 in here covers the space between these blocks, and I do it from this side because I've got this thing flush up against the tailgate. It's not going to fit in there if I do, and that's how it looks. Now this frame is not going to flip over on you. Another important point, if you are planning to build this same setup with the option of having the double or the single bed, I would recommend cutting the plywood right down the center. So you're going to need two pieces in that case if you want to cover the entire space so that it's equal widths on each side. And then you just measure these to the width of one piece of plywood. Shimmy it into place. And there's a single bed setup. I've driven around like this plenty of times. The bed frame doesn't move, and I have not found that this piece of plywood slides off at all. Now let's talk for a minute about your various sleeping pad options. I'll go through 5 of them, starting with the most basic to the most luxurious. The most basic being this old thermarest. Inexpensive. You don't have to inflate anything. You don't have to worry about anything popping. I like having these in the bed of the truck. I can lay them down here. A lot more comfy. Two people can sit on it this way. It's actually much more comfortable than sitting on the bed. And I also use it around in the bed of the truck as a pad for my knees to be on. The next sleeping pad up would be this thermarest. This is more comfortable, costs a little bit more money. You have to inflate it. I've had to patch these before, but it also adds a little bit more R value, I think, with the air in here if you're camping or backpacking in colder temperatures. Relatively lightweight, but probably not by today's ultra light backpacking standards. This converts this thermarest into a very comfortable chair. And there is a very comfortable seat. Back support, comfortable in your butt, great for tailgating. And when I'm camping by myself with this single setup and I want to do some video editing while I'm up north or read a book and it's buggy out or it's raining, I can sit right in the back of this thing like this, close everything up, and it's super comfortable. Now the next option here is this higher end thermarest. This is the ProLite Apex. Lighter in weight, but still very comfortable. Costs a bit more. You can see they've even cut some weight around contouring this a little bit to your body to cut some material down. It's got a better valve too than the other thermarest. Locks better. This one's from L Bean. I've had this for a number of years. I've had to patch my other one. I've got two of these. This is the same concept. Very comfortable. A lot warmer because it's thicker, but it's also much more bulky. However, you're going to need, if you're doing the double setup, of course, you're going to need two of any of these sleeping pad options. The most luxurious option that I have is actually more of a mattress. This is the truck mattress from a company by the name of Hest. The double, they sell different sizes on these things to fit different size truck beds. So it's purpose built for situations like this. They're very comfortable. They're not cheap, but you can use these. I would even honestly replace, I used to have that pop-up camper that I said I used to have, had a terrible mattress. In retrospect, I should have had something like this and ripped out the old one and put this in there because it's very comfortable. That much loft is going to put you even higher and close your space. It's designed, that spider, as a double. So I'll show you that. You can, if you need, tuck it in one little corner, have extra space over here to set food, drinks, snacks, battery bank, what have you, or put it right in the middle, and then you both have options to store things on the side. The Christmas lights here are powered with a battery bank. I've got a couple Blue Eddy battery banks that sit underneath this bed. The wires just tuck alongside the bed frame. I've got a smaller unit that can fit actually beside the bed if I wanted to do that, and then I have a bigger one underneath. Those are nice and convenient. They're easy to access right here under the frame, so I can power other devices, to charge my phone, etc., while we're right here on the tailgate. The Christmas lights are attached with simple electrical tape, black electrical tape. I'm probably going to hook those up with the Velcro strips that I mentioned, just because it'll be a little bit easier and will probably adhere better. Now for winter heating in extremely low temperatures, I have this Mr. Heater Little Buddy that takes a simple propane tank that you find, you can use for lanterns and camping stoves, etc. This will more than blast me out of here in terms of heat. Now I would really only use this while I'm awake. I wouldn't leave this running while I'm sleeping, despite the fact it has plenty of built-in safety features with it. I just wouldn't need it. I've got a lot of cold weather sleeping gear. So this would be nice if I was just in here by myself in the single bed setup and it was inclement weather and I wanted to just watch a movie or something on my laptop or edit videos or read a book in my my thermarest chair. This would be perfect for that, nice and comfy. And then I'd heat the space up, crack a window just to let some of the heat out because it will blast you out of here. And then I'd turn it off and go to bed. Now, another key piece of gear that I always take with me when I'm camping is this Unce Bluetooth speaker. This is a really bumping speaker for its size, and they come even smaller than this on Amazon. Link again in the description. I can run music through my phone, and if I'm watching a movie on my laptop, I can hook my laptop up to the Bluetooth and have much better sound than I'm otherwise going to get from the laptop alone. And of course, if you are inviting the ladies over, then you can use this to set the mood. And it's just the right size to set on the edge of the cap. So here are those Blue Eddy battery banks that I was telling you about. I really can't underscore how comfy this really is. This Hest mattress is super. The blankets keep you warm. You got regular full-size pillows here. You got mood lighting. If the weather is crappy outside, you hear the rain falling on the cap. That's nice to fall asleep to. You get the breeze going across you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, please comment with any ideas that I may have missed or ideas that you thought were particularly helpful. If you've done something similar, what you learned, what you did or didn't do. I learned from you guys as much as I hope you learned from me.